Good morning! Another day, another topic. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about expectations. This is going to cover a little bit of one of the suggestions that I received, which was kind of, I guess, let's see if I remember exactly the words, delivering what you've promised and kind of keeping up with the things that you've established already, kind of thing. And maintaining expectations kind of seemed to be the topic, the big broad topic that would cover all of this. And I've kind of gone through this a little bit recently in a couple of different areas, so I figured this might be a really good topic to cover, since it kind of goes across different things from when you hire people or when you get hired, as a way to kind of help out a little bit in that in life. So, managing expectations. This is something that we all have to do. We either have to manage the expectations that other people expect from us, or help kind of maintain what expectations you have of other people. And one of those things is that you have to make it very clear what you expect. To a certain extent, they should have their own expectations that they're managing, but you also have to let them know what kind of service, what kind of items, etc. that you are expecting from them in return. Because everybody has expectations, and it is our job to help manage them to make everyone's lives a little bit easier. So one thing is, I had a job that I felt like I didn't have a very clear guideline system and my expectations. I wasn't 100% sure, okay, what should I be doing on a regular basis? What do they expect my job to look like? So I worked really hard, and I was doing a lot of different things, and I felt like I was a little bit kind of scattered. So I was a little bit all over the place. I was trying to do a lot of things, and every time I got a suggestion, I tried to implement it. So every time it was like, hey, can you do X, Y, Z? I would try to immediately get on that and make that part of my routine, that X, Y, and Z was an expectation of me. But after a while, it started to weigh on me, and it really felt like I was doing a lot more than I should be, as well as not quite sure what was the most important thing for me to be doing. That caused a lot of confusion and frustration from everyone involved, because nobody knew exactly what I should be doing. Everybody kind of had their own idea of what my job looked like. I had my own idea, they had their own idea, and so there was a lot of confusion going on, and it's happened in more than one job place. So it's one of those things that is very frustrating when you don't have clear set expectations. So whether you're somebody that is hiring somebody or you are going into a new job, that is something that you have to keep in mind when you're asking kind of, what the job entails, or when you're explaining or writing a job kind of description and overview. Make sure that you're managing the expectations you have as well as the expectations they should have, because that will make everything so much easier when it comes to, okay, are they doing a good job? Are they doing what's expected of them? Do they know what they should be doing? Because these are all very different things. So if somebody says you're going to be a receptionist, the majority of the time you assume, okay, well, I'm going to answer phones and I'm going to greet people as they come into the office. Now, if you expect your specific receptionist to be doing additional duties, like if the mail comes in, their job is to distribute it, if their job was to keep logs of things, or writing things down, or keeping in contact with different groups of people, that is not an assumed duty of a receptionist. A lot of the time it's just answer phones, greet people. And so those are very obvious expectations a lot of the time of that job, because that's what's come to be an expectation of it. So if your job area has different set standards and expectations for them, that's something that you need to be sure to talk about to them, because if they're not comfortable with that, then you're going to have a problem. Or if they don't know that that's a part of their job, they won't know that they're failing at their job because they're not doing the additional expectations that they didn't think were made clear to them. So a lot of this, yes, it falls on multiple different groups of people. They should have asked, you should have said. It doesn't help to start passing blame. It helps to start controlling the issue before it becomes an issue. So that's one thing. Going on to a different thing along the same lines is, when you are asked to do a job or you are promising a product or a service, be sure to manage the expectations of your product or service. So if you are delivering skincare product, make sure to tell your clients this is what you should expect to see. Because there's a whole mess of different skincare products out there, from the big name brands to direct sales brands to everything in between, from natural to all of these chemicals in it and so on and so forth. One of the things that you need to do is to manage expectations. A few months ago, I tried a brand new skincare product, and their expectations on their box were very, very clear. There were a certain number of days that you should expect to see some sort of results. They gave you guidelines so that you could measure these results. They said, okay, this is what you need to be doing. This is how often you need to be checking. And if you haven't seen anything change within this certain time period, talk to the person who sold it to you. Talk to this person. Call us. Send it back. Let us know what's happening so that we can fix it, or we can see if there was a problem with the way you used it or with our product. I thought this was amazing handling of expectations, because you knew exactly what to expect and you knew exactly how to measure your expectations against it. You said, I would like clearer skin, or I want this problem to disappear, or I think that this is a problem. So you bought a specific product to solve that problem. Now, if that's not the right product for you, you're not going to get the results that you're looking for. So these products had very specific descriptions on them that said, okay, this is what this one does, this is what this one does, and you're supposed to talk to the consultant who's selling it to you to say, okay, these are my problems that I want addressed, and they can kind of come up with a good routine for you to help address your issues. And once you got it and you started using it, it had very specific directions on how to use the product, and it said, okay, take photos of your face every day, same time of day, same lighting, so that way you could compare it to a couple days down the road. Day 1, and then comparing day 5 or day 10 or day 15, and look at the pictures side by side. You know that they're in the same lighting, you know they're the same time of day. Yes, there might be differences, like for women, when you start your period, your skin kind of gets a little different. When you are going through pregnancy, you know, your skin gets a little different. If you're eating unhealthy, your skin gets a little different. So taking all of that into consideration, you can look at first photo and last photo and say, okay, I'm either seeing a difference or I'm not seeing a difference. And then you can talk to someone and say, look, these are my pictures, this is what I'm expecting, can you see a difference? And sometimes it might just be that you look at your face every day, you can't really tell any more differences, but somebody else might be able to say, yeah, no, I've noticed that this went down, or this problem looks a little less severe in this picture, and they can compare them and they can help you figure out if it's meeting your expectations. I thought that was amazing, because that way you actually know what you're supposed to expect and how to gauge them. Now, it goes on to all these other different areas, because let's say they didn't give you those guidelines. How are you supposed to know what you're expecting, and how are you supposed to know how to handle things? This also works for services that you're hiring, or you're looking for, or you're fulfilling for somebody else. So if you are providing a service, you're either doing something that takes time, like photography, where you're taking your pictures and you're handing them over to your client, or if you're doing something like a manicure or a spa treatment, and that's more of a service, you need to know, let's set up your expectations. Like when I get manicures, I always have to tell people to push back my cuticles, because my hair and nails grow out so quickly that within a week I can see kind of the edge of my nail already growing out. And so it feels a little frustrating to have paid all this money only for it to last about a week. So when it's usually done the way I ask them to, it lasts a little bit longer. But if you can manage those expectations and say, look, these usually last about a week or 2 weeks. I used to have a nail tech who would always tell me, you know, I'll see you in about 2 weeks. And so that's way I knew, okay, so in about 2 weeks, it probably needs to be touched up, or it's not going to look as good as when I got it. That helped manage my expectations. I felt less disappointed with the product, and it might not have been any different than any other nail tech, but that one I just felt like I had better service. It wasn't a better product necessarily, and it wasn't necessarily a better anything other than she managed my expectations. And it's the same thing when you're delivering a product. Like if you order jewelry, let them know, hey, I've seen it last up to X amount of days. And if it comes earlier, you feel like great, and that might be actually how long it usually takes. Like, I know people who sell jewelry, and they'll tell you, hey, I've seen it take about 2 weeks to get to your door. And if it takes a week, suddenly you feel amazing because you got your product so much earlier than you were expecting. And you've exceeded their expectations in that sense, versus telling them, hey, sometimes it comes in a week and then it takes the full 2 weeks. They feel a little disappointed and they start to ask you questions like, hey, why is it taking so long? Why is this happening? And while it might not always be in your control, like you could tell them 2 weeks, but then if it's coming from an area that got hit by a natural disaster, or the weather's really bad, or packaging, it's just going to take that much longer, or something has changed in something that is delaying your product, let your clients know. Because this lets them know, hey, look, I know you ordered this product. I know I said it would get here in about 2 weeks, but it looks like there might be a delay because it was a storm, and I just got a notification that said, hey, things might be coming in a little late, or keep an eye on your tracking number because things are coming a little bit slower than they usually do. Things like that seem so small and insignificant, but can help so much in the long run because you are managing expectations. You are letting them know very clearly that things have happened. Now, in other areas, it might not be like shipping. It might just be that something came up. If you are a photographer and you're delivering the pictures, but your family member passed away, or you had to take on a really big project, or another project you already had scheduled took that much longer, it doesn't hurt you to send a text and say, hey, I know I said I would deliver your pictures this day. It's going to get pushed back a little bit because X, Y, and Z. Something happened. A project came up. Either way, it won't be able to handle on time. Now, there's always going to be a handful of people that say, well, you said it was going to be done this day, and they throw a fit and they get really upset because they were expecting it that one day. But the majority of people are going to say, hey, I understand. Life happens. It's not your fault. Things change, things go wrong, things don't go according to plan. I appreciate you letting me know. And you've now effectively managed their expectation. Now they don't feel like you've forgotten them. They feel like, oh, it's just going to take a little bit longer. And they just know to follow up maybe a week later or a couple of weeks later in order to see if anything's gotten better, or maybe the pictures get done on time. And you say, hey, looks like I managed to get it done after all. Here is it is on time. They just feel better because now they know that you took that extra time to take care of their stuff on time. And you might have just done it like you normally did, and you just happened to have had extra time that showed up, or maybe the project wasn't as big as you thought it was, and you got it done early, or you got it done on time. They don't need to know that. They just need to know that you did your job and you managed the expectation that things might come late, and that way you exceeded expectations when it doesn't. This is so important because with so much going on, with all of these scams that are going on out there, all of these frustrating things, and especially with all of the review places, like you can leave a review on Google, you can do it on Facebook, you can do it on your website, you can do it anywhere. It is so important that you manage expectations to help get that good review. If you look through some of these reviews, it is surprising how often they say, look, my product got here late, or my product was not as good as I thought it was, but they handled the problem, or they managed the expectation that this could happen and they just needed to send it back, or they just needed to call someone and talk to them about it, and it got resolved. So instead of leaving a 1-star review saying, hey, I hated the product, don't buy it, they said, hey, there might be issues, and they told me that, and I got it taken care of, and now I love it. That is so important, especially if you're a small business, or if you're just trying to maintain a good level of customer service. That can change a 1-star review to a 5-star review. With something as simple as, hey, there could be a problem, or there is a recall, or there is a delay in shipping, or there is a delay in this or that. It is a really, really important thing to do because it helps everyone feel so much more comfortable in this transaction. Especially if, like, you're a friend, or you know one of their friends suggested you, say, hey, look, I know a friend that does this, and that's what you were looking for. Whether it's skincare, whether it's photography, whether it's jewelry, whatever it is, that is how you get business. And if you managed that friend's expectation so they are so excited to recommend you, you're going to get that much more business versus burning bridges as you go, because you haven't been managing this expectation. This is something that always bothers me because I like to think I'm a very understanding person, but I get really frustrated when somebody says, hey, expect this. Expect X, Y, Z, whether that's expect this to come at this day, expect this product to do this thing, or expect me to show up on time, and then that doesn't get followed through on. It either comes late, or it doesn't do what I thought, or something wasn't handled properly, or I'm sitting there waiting for an extra 30 minutes. You can't always control what's going on, but if you at least make the effort to manage the expectations a little better while you're still talking to them in person, while they still have a good idea of you, a good impression of you, it'll do so much more for you in the long run than it does in the short run. A lot of times it's so much better to tell them up front, hey, this is going to take a long time. Like if you go to a dealership to get your car fixed, which is something I did fairly recently, and they say, hey, we might not get this done today, but we're going to try. I already knew I might have to be here a long time. And then when they came back and said, hey, it ended up going a lot faster than we thought, the test didn't take as long as it usually does, you're done in an hour. I felt like I had a great experience, even though it didn't take as long as I thought it was going to. They managed my expectations so that maybe usually it takes 30 minutes, but for whatever reason they were backed up and they thought it was going to take longer. And it did take longer than what they usually do. I still didn't feel like I was lied to, or I didn't feel like I wasted my time. I knew what I was getting into, and they delivered. It doesn't feel like a big thing when you're in that moment. It could have been super easy to say, hey, it usually takes us 30 minutes, and then it take an hour, and yeah, stuff happens. But your customer feels better knowing that you kept them up to date. If you do say it's taking 30 minutes and for whatever reason it gets backed up, the test takes longer, the lights go out, the machine broke, whatever it is, go to your customer in the waiting room and say, hey, I know we said we did it done in 30 minutes, but something went wrong, this happened, that happened, and it's going to take longer. You give them the option to say, hey, I don't have that much time, let me bring it back later, or just simply, okay, I don't have anywhere else to be, go ahead. You've effectively made them feel more comfortable doing business with you than if you just left them waiting there and have them sitting there upset saying, well, they said it was going to take me 30 minutes, now I'm either going to be late coming back from lunch, or I am not going to be able to get to the next thing on time, or I'm just upset that I have to wait that much longer. I wanted to get more things done. There are so many things that can improve a relationship with clients, with vendors, with all sorts of different kinds of people, even friendships. If you're going to meet a friend for dinner and you say 7 o'clock, but for whatever reason your car battery didn't want to start, or it needs to be changed out, or a tire was flat, or you were running late, or traffic's really bad, and you're going to be late, it is so much easier to send a text to say, hey, I know we said 7 o'clock, we might need to push it back because something happened, or let's reschedule, or let's do something else, or even simply, I forgot. That happens. You are human. You are going to forget some things sometimes. And if that happens, it is so much better just to have a quick apology than not to acknowledge it. Say, hey, I'm really sorry, it slipped my mind, I've been really busy, or I just, traffic was really bad. Whatever your excuse is, whatever happened, whatever it is, be effective communicators of this, so that way they don't feel like they were blown off. They could say, oh, well, you know what? It happens. Let me just eat while I'm here, or let's reschedule and we can come back a different day, or you know what? I'm running late too. Let's just push back the time. So much can be done to make better relationships by simply managing expectations. There's so many other things you can call it. You can say, handling relationships, being kind, being courteous, being honest. Ultimately, it comes to whatever you've led people to expect of you. I want people to expect me to be a kind person, as well as an understanding person, as well as somebody who's just willing to help out a friend. But if I don't manage that expectation in making sure that when somebody comes to me, I'm able to listen and able to be that person that I'm trying to expect them to expect me to be, then my image changes to them. This applies to so many different aspects of your life, and I hope that you got something good out of it, or at least kind of learned a little bit more about what you can do to help manage this expectation. And that's all the time I have today. I hope that you got something good out of it, or at least picked up a tip or trick. Thanks for watching.